2021. It came back, and I had to go in the hospital again for another month to 6 weeks. And then really in California, they couldn't really do much, but then through, just a random connection through a family friend, cousins who doctors happens to know someone at the Cleveland Clinic, I was able to get connected and then have this groundbreaking intestinal organ transplant. So that kind of got me into researching different things about my rare disease, and it got me connected to NORD through the charity work that they do for the Running for Rare. So I ran the Boston Marathon in 2023 for them to kind of raise awareness, and that kind of got me in the ball to raise awareness. That's my story.
Thank you, Chris. Well, thank you all for being here. Pretty powerful team, huh? Yeah. Okay, all right, with that, let's dive into the discussion. Okay, Maddie, let's start with you. You're involved, like you said, with the world of rare diseases, both personally and professionally. You said that your personal experience with a rare disease inspired you to steer your medical career towards rare disease research and advocacy. So my question to you is, was there a specific turning point when you decided to pursue your purpose?
Yeah, I think for me, that turning point really came from when I realized that becoming a physician wasn't about me. It was about something so much bigger than me, about all the patients and their families that deserve, more voices advocating for them, and especially voices that know what it's like to be on the side that nobody wants to be on. And, I made all these jokes about these unexpected detours that life has taken me on these back roads and potholes and birds flying in my windows and all that. And as much as I, wanted nothing to do with it and wanted to just, cut that part out of my life, it, hit me that this was so much bigger, and that, yes, these experiences, I would have loved to have a YouTube lecture and be done with it, but I've learned things that they don't teach in medical school. There is no medical school lecture that is going to teach you what it's like to be a patient and everything, emotionally, physically, all that and all it entails, and to be kind of the loved one of a patient as well. And so when you have these experiences, that then you can turn around and see how professionally that you now have a different voice. And I, at one point in my career, I sat there and I was planning to take the MCAT. I was ready to apply. I was already much later than what I wanted to from everything that had happened. And I, thought I was going to play myself and be all set to go. I set the MCAT up, after I found out I had to have surgery again. I was like, it's fine. And so then I had all these complications after the surgery. And the day that I was actually supposed to take it, I was transported from Cincinnati to Cleveland. And so this was a whole 2-month stay, and I was like, I think the universe is saying this is a bad idea. And I looked at that, and my family was like, we're not going to be upset if you don't go to medical school. And that's when I think it really hit me that I was like, this isn't about me anymore. This is about the patients and their families that have to navigate the system that constantly, and I'm so sorry, lets them down. There's flaws in it that need to be fixed, and sometimes a lot of times it's a lack of people on the side that can't advocate professionally, because they know from these experiences and all these conversations with you guys at this conference has been very, very eye-opening as well. And so that was really when that sort of narrowed in focus shift kind of happened, and having the research experience as well. Research is not usually paid, and that it tends to be a very prominent issue, is that you get these undergraduate researchers or these volunteer researchers that is not paid work, so it's like grunt work and they're not passionate. And I'm very great. I worked under a pediatric neurosurgeon who kind of like threw me off the edge and said, I'm gonna let you sink. And so to me, I had a very much different experience, because I saw that how this tiny little fraction of a professional's career was someone's entire world. It's the deadliest form of pediatric brain cancer that we were researching, and it was getting no research. 20 years ago, we didn't know anything about it. And so that's one condition out of hundreds that you guys deal with every single day, and you guys know it far better than the providers. But to have that exposure on the research side and be like, why don't we know this? And then it's like, oh, because our system is set up the way that it is. So yeah, that's kind of how a little bit of my story and why that I am as passionate as I am about making sure that my colleagues currently and now, and the kind of the rare disease community has those voices with them on the professional side. And so I hopefully will always, and well, I know I will always strive to, but I hope to be able to make significant impact and change in some of our policies and kind of the way that our system functions. So.
Thank you for using your talents and your gifts that way. We're so grateful as a community. Okay, let's turn to Grace. Let me sit close to these. Thank you. That better? Okay. Okay, now let's turn to Grace. Grace, you didn't start painting till after your diagnosis, and now you use the arts to help others through the Grace Fisher Foundation. You found a way to balance the difficulties of living with a rare disease while still striving to find purpose and meaning. So my question to you is, can you share with us how you navigate this balance?
Yeah, so it's kind of a constant balance of recognizing the loss and recognizing the current situation that you're in. So, like, for me, being diagnosed at 17, it was a time where, like, my independence was just kind of starting. And so when I went to rehab, it was really hard to accept where I was at, and having doctors and having providers around me say, like, okay, this is the label of your diagnosis. And there was, like, a lot of names going around, like acute flaccid myelitis, and what does this mean for you? And I kind of was like, all right, these labels are just kind of words, and I just kind of have to accept the position that I'm in at the moment. So, like, this balance that I'm speaking of is not, I guess, always focus on like the fix is, it's like being told that that you need to be fixed is like a hard thing, and so just embracing who you are at, like, any given moment is something that is just like very important, and of course that takes time to feel the loss, but then also embrace the future. But music and art was something that I could do, and it looked a lot different than what it did before. But I guess embracing the new is something that's kind of just needed in order to plug on and live your life as it is in the moment. So
That's great advice, to embrace where you are and focus on what you can do. Yeah. Thanks for that, Grace. Okay, let's turn to Chris now. Chris, you received, oh, there we go. Oh, okay, there we are. Chris, you received an FAP diagnosis in 2002, went through desmoid tumor treatment in 2017, and then an intestinal organ transplant in 2021, and now today you're running marathons for running for a rare team, pretty amazing, and collaborating with the Cleveland Clinic to highlight new options in treatment for desmoid tumors and FAP treatment. So my question is, how did you transition from patient to advocate and transform your challenges into catalysts for change?
Yeah, the transition kind of happened after my first, in 2017, 2018, after the first treatment. So I was in the hospital since, let's see, it would have been November 2017 through about to December. Then I had, 6 chemo sessions that lasted another 6 months, and then a surgery after that. So I was pretty much not able to do much. I mean, we can go on trips, we can kind of interact, but just from the chemo, you're tired. You have no stamina. Your endurance isn't there. So we tried to make the best of it. But then after that surgery, kind of as I got better and released, I've always been an active person, so I kind of want to continue that, especially after that treatment. The doctor said it would take about 2 years to get back to your shape before the treatment began. So I tried to ran. I was running. I felt good, get back in shape, build the endurance up. And at the same time, during that process with the desmoid tumor, there wasn't really much organizations that I knew about it. So there's just from Google researching, I found the Desmoid Tumor Research Foundation out of Philadelphia, and kind of see what's going on. And they had different 5Ks that local patients had done kind of throughout the area. So that kind of where it started piquing my interest. And then I always wanted to do the LA Marathon. I was actually trying to train it before one of my surgeries, but I had to drop out because of the surgery training. And then through that, I kind of researched, what I knew, like charities, they sponsor marathons, they, donate to them. So I kind of was, what charities are participating in the LA Marathon? And I had to research one from 2017, 2018, I think, at the time, that NORD was a sponsor. So I reached out to their Running for Rare team, and they said they had previously done that, but since they're on the East Coast, they're no longer really funding programs on the West Coast. It just logistically didn't make sense for them. So I was like, okay, But then they said, hey, we have, the New York Marathon, the Boston Marathon. Do you want to run one? I was like, yeah, sure. I'll do the Boston Marathon 2020. So that was exciting. So that gave me some hope, or not, a reason to train further to get better in shape. And then obviously the pandemic hit, so that got delayed. And then I got sick again with the tumor kind of started regrowing. Then the transplant at Cleveland. But then, so that's then eventually I was able to run it. So it kind of started originally that first time just to get better shape, to get the awareness out, to kind of look for organizations that are kind of already doing a lot of the work themselves. So you have to create, start from the ground up. You can kind of take what they're doing, other people have done in your similar situation. And just another reason was to, during this whole, I know with rare diseases, it's, with the more of the mainstream ones, it's hard to explain your story sometimes. People don't really get it. If you talk, you don't explain it enough, they kind of say, like, oh, it's not too bad. Or if you explain it too much, you lose them. So trying to find that balance and then kind of get the awareness up, and that's why I kind of focused on NORD they were, in that area of rare diseases in general, just not just mine, but the overall impact. And that's where that started. And then kind of getting over the catalyst, this whole process, I kind of wanted to become, not be defined by the rare disease. I mean, it's always be a part of you. It's defined me in certain, or not defined me, but it's impacted me in certain ways. That some negative, some, I probably wouldn't be, I wouldn't be running marathons maybe if it wasn't doing it. I wouldn't meet certain people. So I kind of wanted to, just impact that and just, not only define me, but just, spread the word, raise awareness, and say, like, to other people maybe that have it in similar situations or sometimes worse, that it's not the diagnosis is not the end. You can still have your life outside of that, and you can pursue your own dreams, whether it's, running, or whether it's, art, or whether it's, your medical profession, just whatever it is.
Whatever your
Passion is.
That's great. Thanks,
Thanks.
Chris. Okay. Okay, the next question for our panel is, are there any specific strategies, coping mechanisms, or resources that have helped you cope with the challenges of living with a rare disease and find purpose despite the pain? So anything specific that helped you that we can maybe share with the audience that might help them too? And we'll just go down the line, whoever wants to jump in.
Yeah, I think for me it was a lot of making sure that I would grow through what you go through. It was a transition, obviously, to, like, sure, I'd love to, go eat dinner with my family, or, future thing of, like, eating, your wedding cake, stuff like that. But I'm like, in the grand scheme of things, like, it's not that bad. There's so much, I can manage. This is okay. What can I do with this, though? And how can I use these experiences to make sure that those that follow, that it's a lot, they have someone on the other side and a voice and a hand that's pulling them through and saying like, yes, this is, a part of your life. It's not your whole life, kind of echoing what both Chris and Grace have, discussed, that it's a lot more of what you do with what you have. And I think that was kind of my biggest, kind of what I still lean on, and dark humor. You got to make a joke anytime, anytime you can, yeah. And so those have really been the big things, and obviously my support system. I can't, I wouldn't be who I am or where I'm at if it wasn't for them, and I'm so grateful for them more than I can ever express. So.
Thanks for sharing that. Good coping mechanism, especially the dark humor.
Yeah.
Okay, how about you, Grace? Any coping mechanisms, strategies, or resources that helped you?
Yeah, so it's really easy to get bogged down with the past, thinking about maybe your life before a rare disease, and having this expectation of what your future might look like. And then also just being overwhelmed with the future and current tests and stuff that might come up and certain unknowns and stuff. But it's a coping mechanism for me is just, kind of like what I said before, just living in the moment as you are now. And there, like art, I wasn't an artist before, but
I can't believe that. You should see her art. It's amazing.
thank you. Well, one thing that I say is like, I've been, now I have the time to really like explore the arts. And like when I was younger, I was like, I never imagined myself living in a wheelchair like this, but there's definitely been opportunities that have been presented to me because of my situation, what I've done with it. And I think it's honestly like on the outside looking in, it's very empowering to be like, okay, this is a new world that I'm living in with this rare disease. And how am I going to use this to do maybe good in the world and to explore new talents that you never thought existed. I think it's a very empowering thing. And also just, and maybe you're like a parent or friend of someone with a rare disease, but just being there for others that might be going through something difficult has definitely kept me positive. And like Maddie said, I definitely wouldn't be where I am without my family and my the community that I have around me.
Thanks, Grace. How about you, Chris? Any strategies, coping mechanisms, resources that have helped you?
I think a big coping mechanism for me was like to tell your story, your journey, what you've been through. I know that able to share that with other people. It's not, you can obviously share your stories where you've been through, but you can kind of make unknown connections to people too, because you never know. There's been a couple times where, at work, coworker, just sharing my story when I came back from my transplant. He shared a story is one of his friend's wives was diagnosed with colon cancer, and I was like, I brought up my contact with the UCSF, the doctors, and he's like, okay, great, I'll go I'll tell him, and then that's who they got to see, and she's doing a lot better now. So it's kind of like the connections you never know that are there. So it's just sharing your story. It can help you release some tension by opening up to other people, sometimes even strangers, like on an airplane or a bar after the Boston Marathon or something like that. And I think another strategy that's helped me is able to connect with different organizations. Obviously NORD. There are also maybe just general organizations that are specific to your rare diseases or the hospitals. I know at the Cleveland Clinic, I'm working with them right now just to kind of get the word out there that, you know, organ transplants are they're not as bad as what the medical world thinks they are. Because like a lot of the technology has improved within the last few years. A lot of doctors have this 20-year-old mindset on them. Like up in California, a lot of my doctors kind of recommended me not to get one. But my doctor and my surgeon, he's like, well, his confidence, and, you know, he's guaranteeing that it was going to work. You know, explained like how he's developed these new techniques. So I think, and that'll help, you know, other rare disease patients or, you know, people with FAP or desmoid tumors, or anyone that needs an organ transplant, just to see how it can help you a lot. So.
I'll jump into from a caregiver perspective, and it kind of echoes what everybody's really saying, which is, I think the coping mechanism that helped me most was to take all my fear, my frustration, my angst, my anxiety, and to channel it into something proactive to help advocate for my son's rare disease. Rare diseases come with a loss of control and often even a loss of identity, and they make us feel as if we must relinquish our former identity. But I feel like what helped me was actually to lean in to my personality and my background and my skills. And I think that when we do that, you know, we can really share our gifts. There's such a need in this community for every single skill set, for every single background, for every single talent. And so this is an opportunity, really, or maybe even a call to use our gifts and our talents in this way with just something we're so deeply connected with. And I really feel like that's the antidote to powerlessness and helplessness, and it really allows us to take back our strength and fight. And I'll just say that, you know, often our life's work, maybe our greatest contributions can be found in our greatest challenges. So I think this is an opportunity. We you know, each of us has a unique voice, and each of us is needed in this world. Each of us is needed in this community, and each of us has a gift and a purpose to contribute here. So, okay, one last question before we switch over to Q&A, and this is going to be quick, and it's going to be a little speed round, and so with quick takeaways for our audience to leave with. So I'm going to ask this question to each of you guys. Ready? Ready, panel? Okay. So Maddie, Chris, Grace, you've each shared your experience with rare disease entering your life, changing your course, and reshaping your outlook and future. What's the best piece of advice you could give to our audience to find purpose despite the pain? Go for it, Maddie.
Enjoy the ride, learn from it, and never say no to ice cream.
Yes, love that. How about you, Grace?
Embrace the future and find things in life that you enjoy, and find things in life that you enjoy, and do that.
All right, how about you, Chris?
I would say kind of use your given abilities and your interests to kind of find your purpose.
And I'll say, just kind of reiterate what I said, is use this challenge to find your purpose. Your purpose can help you go from feeling powerless to powerful. Okay, and with that. And now we'll go to our Q&A, audience Q&A.
Right, and thank you so much to our panelists. This has been incredible. We have put these little cards in your bags. Some of you may have written questions on the cards, and if you have, my colleague Jill will pick those up. And otherwise, I think the room is small enough. If anybody just wants to
Shout it out.
stand up and shout it out, that's fine too. You have a question?
I do. I have a question and comment. My name is Holly, and I was diagnosed with a rare disorder and had a liver transplant 10 months ago. And I totally agree. It's not as traumatic. It's not as huge, but it is huge, and it's really hard mentally. And so I'm wondering, just for me personally, transitioning from patient to person. That's a very the transplant, the wait list, transplant, the recovery. Now, I'm up and about, I'm working, I'm here, I'm present. But that mindset and that, a little bit of survivor guilt I have, which is strange, but how, the transition from patient to person, how would you all describe how that went for you, or if it's just an ongoing thing?
Anyone want to jump in?
For me, it's always been an ongoing process. I mean, you just kind of take out, I just kind of take, at the beginning at least, day by day, and then, each day kind of becomes maybe a week, and then a month. And then it's kind of, hopefully the process gets a little easier each time. So I know with my intestinal, it's, the pills you take, kind of, the intestinal, the digestive tract, it's managing that's a lot stressful. I mean, like, I don't know, I use humor a lot, self-depreciating humor, I don't know. And jokes with my family and daughters. For me, too, it's always been a strong support system with my wife and, my family. Regarding the thoughts of survival guilt, I never had that. I don't know, I don't know how to answer that one, but.
Someone shared with me this, which I found really helpful raising my son. They said, live your life outside of the disease, make a whole life outside of the disease. And so I took that with me, and that's what we try to do is, just do whatever regular things we can do, what we're able to do, and enjoy our life outside of the disease.
And find your support people and use them. Let them in on your condition as well, because if they love you, they want to be there. And when you have those people that are helping support you from they were there when you were a patient, and now they're here when you're a person, lean on them, let them help you, take care of you, and all of that, and you will have no problem progressing into person and moving on forward.
I feel like even though my disability, is very physical. I mean, you see me and you know that I have a disability. But I feel like I don't even think of myself as a patient. And I don't know if that's because I have a selective memory about what I've gone through. But I surround myself with tasks and things that I enjoy doing, and that kind of takes me out of my current situation. But I think Maddie said, share your experiences and stuff with others around you, because they love you and they want to support you. And that's one regret that I have early on with going through everything that I did, was just my friends especially, and I mean given early 20-year-olds aren't the most empathetic people. I think getting older and learning, I think that's been something that's really helped me just feel more like everyone else is just sharing. Because, we all have something that we're dealing with, and for us, it's maybe a rare disease or a disability, but there's things in the world that everyone is dealing with something.
I have a question for our panelists about your experiences with healthcare professionals. It's so important with rare diseases to have a medical team that is supportive and understands what you're going through and is able to sort of quarterback. I'm sorry, my watch is ringing. In your experiences, were the healthcare professionals that you've been working with supportive beyond just your medical needs? Did they understand this whole other aspect of it, and were they able to be helpful in some way?
So I am a stubborn turd sometimes, and I was a student athlete, and so I was full throttle all the time, and then suddenly it's like, yeah, you can't, you're malnourished, like all this, and you're early 20s and have an NJ tube, and I had amazing support people. They named it Nigel and stuff like that. That you're just like, you're thankful for that. But then there are times where yes, I am, young, but sometimes it felt like the professor, the healthcare professionals don't always take that into account where you are in your life. And I've had it both ways to see that sometimes yes, but kind of where when you have all these ambitions that you're not a professional patient, no one wants to be one. So that aspect that your quality of life matters, kind of what you can do with what you have matters as well. And I think that even just that communication, which yes, there's a whole get on a soapbox for 2 hours about the flaws in the healthcare system and how that there are certain small things that should be done, and a lot of that is communication between providers. And I think that when you get a provider that does think about that and does think that, hey, that family just needs to know this simple bit of information so they're not spending 3 weeks distressed. So I think that getting these experiences as a patient, seeing this and being able to be on the flip side and say like, hey, this needs to be a little bit different has kind of been a unique thing. But yeah, that's sort of how I think with providers, just communicate as much as you can.
Yeah, so living with a rare disease or disability, you might have this expectation that you need to be seen by like a super serious specialist or something, but for me, I mean, I'm 26 now, and I am still seen by my pediatrician, and so we just have like a very close relationship with a doctor that knows my situation and things that, I mean, a lot of times we'll just be like, Margot, my doctor, I need a flu shot. Can you come over to our house and do it? And so it's just kind of simple things like that it's just much easier to have that relationship with her rather than like going through a hospital or healthcare system that sometimes things take longer and stuff. But foster relationships with providers and doctors that see you instead of just a patient.
I'll echo what Grace is saying. I feel like we didn't start with those providers, but that's what we have now, because we've, over years, what we found is like Grace is saying, it's not just about getting that expert care, but it's also that relationship and having someone that understands the bigger picture of you and your life. And so I feel like over time we've kind of, for my son, we've found our way. We've really vetted, we've looked, we've searched for those type of, for those providers. And, when there's a choice, we will go with somebody that's communicative and that understands where my son's at in his journey. And that's now what I'm teaching my son, now that he's 12, is to start forming these relationships with these providers and start to learn how to speak with them. And so, yes, I think, we've found over time the providers that will help in the bigger picture of in my son's life.
So we're coming to the end of our time now, I think, and we did unfortunately not get to all the questions, but it's an important topic. You all have shared wonderful insights, and it's a conversation that we will be continuing. And now I think my colleague Kristen has some information for us.
Thank you all for sharing your inspiring stories. Stories like yours give us and our team here just more momentum and inspires us every day. So I appreciate you being here today and sharing your stories. It's now time for a brief networking break. We will go into the next plenary session in the main Sierra Ballroom, and that will begin at 2:50. So there's some snacks and refreshments out there. Please help yourself and enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you all for coming.